think it's about right.
It's 78. It's 78. I've never seen it.
Okay, so tonight we're going to learn about how to do nested routing. I'm glad that some of you already looked into this, or at least encountered the problem of how do I nest a route? How do I maybe separate my routes from my server.js file, and I have them in a module so that I can import them later and use them. So we're going to learn like why do we want to do that, how to do it with express.router, and then we're going to touch about like different ways in which we can structure our server once we start to have more than one file. So why to nest routes? Let me ask you like that question to you. Like, why do you think we should have like nested routing? Yes, you will. Okay, so the express. That's like confusing. Communicate data relationships, that's correct. Communicate data relationships. We're going to see what kind of relationship. All right. Any other ideas as to like why do we want to like nest routes? Multiple web pages.
Like, if we start at like about us, and then from about us we can go to contacts and stuff like that.
Let's add that one. Multiple pages.
Does it add some sort of order for sorting?
Order.
I mean, it's sort of kind of related to the versus.
Yeah, let's see. Deja.
Well, if you have multiple pages, you don't want anything that should be the same, so you want any no duplicates, no conflicts, anything like that.
I think, let's see. So yes, we don't want to, you shouldn't be seeing two different things at the same route, right? You imagine how confusing will be if you go to about us /company and you see maybe the company mission and vision. But then you go to that same URL again and you see a list of products. That will be really confusing, right? But for guaranteeing like uniqueness, wouldn't really apply to this scenario. Guaranteeing uniqueness. Somebody else? Dinesh?
There's a hierarchy.
Hierarchy, yes, that's like the point here. I don't know how to spell hierarchy. Hierarchy. So it does communicate a data relationship, of what kind of relationship hierarchy in that data. So this is just like our folders. For instance, if we go here, I have this command install that lets me go here. You see, like just like in the folder I'm currently at, if you do ls, I have a list of folders and files, and then inside of those folders there are some other folders and so on. And this is a hierarchy too, like the way in which your files are organized in your file system inside of your computer is a hierarchy. I have this command, you might not have it, it's called tree, and it shows me literally a tree of the hierarchy. So you can see that I have quite a few things. Let's do only directories. Directories here. So these are only the folders. So I have like at core, this is like this folder that I have core has 3 folders inside. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. And inside of there, I have some other folders. And inside of those, I have some files. Right? So this is expressing a hierarchy. So it's like a family tree. This is known as a file system tree as well. And we want to express this sort of relationship also in our web page, so that if you have, let's say you have, I'm going to be building this. Let's say you have a route call /catalog. And let's say then that we want to have inside of the catalog route, maybe we have a subroute /bikes. Maybe another one /cars / let's do like toys and so on, right? Then we could go on and saying, let's say on bikes, we want to have something like mountain bikes, race bikes, and what other kind of bikes there are. Let's just do this. So for doing this, what we could do is have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different routes. We could literally just say app.get /catalog /bikes /mountain to be one route, and then we could have another route right underneath there saying /catalog /bikes /race, and so on for the rest if the others have like other levels. So why do we want to use routes is we want to communicate this data relationship of a hierarchy, and that as a consequence we have other benefits as well. One of those is like working with others becomes easier, and I mean with other developers. Like once you get into the industry, you're not going to be working on your own. You're going to be part of a team that is around like 5 people. Maybe some front-end developers, some back-end developers, maybe one full stack, maybe a database developer, program manager, or maybe a graphic designer, or a UI UX designer. And having these separate routes in what we're going to be seeing, which is having actually different files for each one of these routes will allow you, for instance, Brianna can work with the race route, where this will be in its own file, or actually, Brianna will work more like in the bikes section. Let's say you're in charge of creating this API for a customer application to search bikes, and you could do that while Suzette is working on cars, because these two are going to be in different files. Then you're not going to have conflicts as to, oh, I changed line 2, and then I changed line 3, and then conflicts arise. We're going to have something, and you're going to encounter something that we know as merge conflicts. And that is when 2 of you are working on an app. As I said, like you're going to be working in teams. We're actually currently planning a group project for the next project so that you can start as soon as possible working on a team. And that comes out of the reflection that you're not going to be working on your own once you are in the industry. But merge conflicts come when two people are working on the same file and they happen to touch the same line. That could be something as minimal as on line 10, I added a semicolon, let's say. And then Kathy changed let on line 10 from let to const. I changed the semicolon on line 10 to be like added a semicolon, and Kathy changed from let to const the variable. Those are two modifications that we did, me on my computer, Kathy on hers, and then we want to combine our work on GitHub, and then Git and GitHub are going to complain saying, oh, there is a merge error, there's a merge conflict, you both modify the same file on the same line. And then we have to sit down and think about, okay, which one do we take? Do we accept both, or do we accept only the semicolon, or do we accept the const versus let? And that's going to be like, you're going to come back to me with a lot of merge conflicts. And that's fine, you're going to learn. It's going to happen. So structuring our file, so basically what we're going to have is, if we're building this, we can have a file that takes care of the bikes route, another file that takes care of the cars route, and another that takes care of the toys route. So that somebody could work on one of them and somebody else on another one. So that is also a consequence of modularizing our app, right? Breaking our app into smaller chunks, into smaller Lego pieces that are independent, so that we can avoid that conflict. Cool, so this is an example. This is sort of like the example that I was mentioning. So let's imagine we're building an online shopping application like Amazon, and these are some of the few features that we need. So we need a product system for showcasing all the products, a user system for user account, allowing a user to register, a login, an order system to keep in track of what orders a customer made, how much they paid, and all that, and a review system for users to leave reviews on the products they had bought, right? So we could do, if we were in charge of building an API like this or a server, we could just do something like this, right? We could implement a route for get on /products with an optional query parameter of page 1. Or we could also do an and product/product ID if we want to get one specific product ID. We could do, for the user system, we could do /users/all to list all the users. We could implement /users/URL parameter user ID to get one specific user. We would also need to implement /user/register to add a new user, right? To sign up a user. I guess here we're missing like login if we want it. And for the orders, we'll implement something like order/URL parameter user ID /purchases. This will let us know. This will let us retrieve the orders belonging to this user ID, right? And then from those, what were the purchases? And then for the reviews, we could implement something like a get request. Oh, this was a post request. Yes, this was a post request for register. A get request to /review column product ID to get the reviews only for one specific product, and a post request to that same URL for posting or adding a new review. This is like when I don't know if, do you guys review on Amazon when you buy on Amazon and they ask you for a review? Some of them do, and some of us don't. But when you do that review, is a form with a text box and some stars to pick from. That will be a post request to a URL, something like this. Right? So if we're in charge of building this, Well, one, we can see that we can see a few things. One is there are like 4 main routes, like products, users, orders, and review, right? And then some of them, we could think conceptually that they represent a hierarchy, right? Like on users, for instance, we have the ability to get a user by a specific ID, right? And we have the ability to register a user. So these are like, we could also think, if we think of this as a tree, and that hierarchy representation, we could say like the slash register endpoint is a child of the user's endpoint. And here the URL parameter user ID will be a child endpoint of the slash users. Similar to, we could think conceptually of this, just like in the DOM when we have an element is parent of the other. Right? So if we, or any questions or comments up until this point? So let's see. So there are 4, and if we had to implement this, we could just do this. Let's copy this. I'm going to go to my terminal. Unit 3.
Copy the second snippet?
Say that again?
Did you copy the second snippet?
Oh, yes. I'm going to go, I created this folder earlier, Express Nested Routes. And then here I'm going to create a server.js. Or app.js. Sometimes this file is called app.js or index.js. I'm going to open this with code. And then here I'm just going to paste this. So we have this. Let's create one of these too. Everyone has their file. Let's run this. Wait, I'm still in the wrong folder. PWD, I have to go to Express. Nested routers. So I'm in this folder. And then I'm going to do nodemon server.js. Oops, app crashed. Cannot find module express. What is the line that I need to run to fix this? Oh, I should have said npm init first. Note that I should have said npm init first, because if I do ls, Express was installed, but I don't have a package.json. I have a package lock.json, but not a package.json. So what I'm going to do here is remove and start with npm init. I could also just add the package.json manually. Remove recursive enforce, node modules, and package.json. So let's do ls. We have nothing. npm init y to accept the defaults, and then npm I express. Remember, I is short for install on npm. So I have express now. Let's try to run nodemon express server. We have our server running. Cool. So what do we have here? So we have a get request to products, get request to /product/product ID. So let's give this a try. Go to the browser, localhost 3000, products. So we will get a list of all products. Okay, that works. Let's do like products /shampoo. Sending a specific product, it will send if I do /shampoo. If I do /1234, that will still be sending a specific product, because in our routes, we specified in our routes that will be this route. When we put something after /products, we will send this response. So let's try with users. So we get users, cannot get /users. That is because we didn't implement that route. We have /users/all. So we want to do /users/all. Let me see if I can open this on a. Here to have more space on the URL bar. So we have this. We can then say /users /Alejo, and we'll get a specific user. So this works, but there are a few issues here. What are some of the, talk to whoever is sitting next to you about what is some of the repetition that's going on here, and think about what if this is like my route handlers being very small. What happens when they grow? So discuss about the repetition that we're having here. And what happens if my functions start to be larger than just one? Cool. So what were some of the conclusions or thoughts that surfaced? Peter?
Things like products and users, they're all like repeating, it's just different. Each get request like a subsection of users, or as it should be.
Right, so did everyone see that? Like how we're repeating ourselves here, literally products here and products again, users here and users again. Anything else? What about if my functions start to grow? These are functions that only have one statement and I already have 44 lines.
Yeah, it might get like a little like confusing to like look at visually.
It will be really hard to look at. Like probably thousands of lines. Right? If I have, how many do we have here? If we have, let me count, how many apps do we have here? We have 9. We have 9 apps. So that's 9 routes. If every function takes 10 lines, then we end up with a file with 1,000 lines. Right? And then, so that is really hard to maintain because then let's imagine back to the example of like, let's say Brianna is working on something on the server as well as Suzette. Then they'll need to be talking, oh, I'm working on line 15 to 20. Don't touch anything there. Right? It's better if she says, oh, I'm going to be taking care of the bikes routes to the team. And then everybody else knows that she's going to be touching the files that belong to the bikes. Yes,
Can you like separate them with the separate
that's what we're going to do, like, right now. So questions or comments about like the repetition, the downsides of having just one file. Just like we didn't get to do this much on like before, like when we were working in the DOM, but some of you, I did see that you had like separate JavaScript files for like some variables. For instance, on the Hangman game, I saw that some of you put like in one file, put the array of the 1,000 words or however many, and then in another file you put like the actual game logic. So that's what we're going to be doing here, like breaking down this app into multiple files for more readability, more easier to maintain, and also allowing for co-working. So for doing that, we're going to use the friends that we learned yesterday and the day before, which is middleware. And one specific middleware that comes with Express, which is express.router. So let's look at the documentation. Let's see what express.router says. Express.js.com. Guide routing maybe, or let's do express. Sorry, route. Let's see what it says. Express.router. Use the express router class to create modular mountable route handlers. A router instance is a complete middleware and routing system. For this reason, it is often referred to as a mini app. Thank you. So the use of express router to create modular mountable route handlers, and a route instance is a complete middleware and routing system. For this reason, it is often referred to as a mini app. So this like router is sort of like a mini server. If you think about the example or the analogy that I gave about Express being a pipe that you just add other chunks to, now what Express router is going to do is it's just going to allow us to fork pipes, and then we can just have a complete water system with multiple endpoints. Let's say what it says. The following example creates a route as a module and then loads as a middleware function in it. Defines some routes and mounts the router module on a path in the main app. So this is literally what we're going to do. So what we want to do is let's start breaking this app. So in here, what I'm going to do is, so oftentimes we break it down into the main routes. So in here we have like 4 main routes. In this case, we also have 5 orders reviews, still 4. So let's start to break this down. So for doing that, I'm going to create a folder in here I'm going to call routes. This is standard. I don't have to create a folder, but it is standard to create a folder called routes. And then inside of there, I'm going to create one JavaScript file that I'm going to call products.js. And in this product.js, I'm going to put all the products middleware and handlers. Yes, Peter?
So putting it from there, we'll also put it on your actual file that you're working on the computer?
Oh, yes. If I did it here like with, let me exit this. I did it here with VS Code. If I do here ls, I have the folder. And if I look inside of the folder, I have the file. Yes, creating a file with VS Code will put it in your folder. Everyone has their products file. Close this, go here. Now here, what I'm going to do is, we need to import Express, just like as we were doing in the main file. Express. And then now I'm not gonna create an app with const app equal express, calling express. What I'm going to create is a middleware function. Well, actually, Express is gonna create it for me, and it's just gonna put it in this file, in this variable that we call router. This is just a variable. In this case, I'm not gonna create this I'm not gonna write this middleware myself. Express is providing it, and I can just do express.router like that, capital R. So express.router is a middleware that I just invoke and I put in my router variable. Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So not because we have the router variable, but because we have Express already installed. So when you install, like here, I don't need to install Express again, because on the JavaScript files that I have in my folder, when I do require on any module, first it's going to look at to see if the module that I'm requiring is a built-in module in Node. If it's not a built-in module, the next thing that it doesn't matter what file I'm doing require on, is check the node modules folder. And in there, it's going to find Express. So yeah, most of the times, not all the times, you will need to only install once. And then all the files in your directory can share that one installation. So let's have router. And then what I can do is, I'm going to do router.get. Let's do this simple example for now. So I'm going to do router.get /1. So request, response, next. So note here that this looks exactly the same as we were doing it in app. I just have a route called /1. And a middleware function, a route handler that receives the request next. What I'm going to do is let's do subroute. So I'm going to do res.send. This is subroute 1. Yeah, sure.
So how do your server that JS is going to read products.js?
That's coming up next. So just know that this is exactly the same. We just have, instead of app here, we have something called the router. And we can think of the router as a mini app. That's why we could do like router.get. And now you understand like middleware. So you can just think of this is middleware. Just like the ones that we were creating, like valid numbers, right? So if we think about what we were doing with for instance, with cores, the cores that we wrote, and even the one that we were installing, or body parser, do you guys remember that there is two kinds of middleware? What are those two? Route level and app level, or also known as route wide or app wide middleware, right? So we saw that, for instance, from here we did valid numbers. Valid numbers was route level middleware because you will only work on that one route. Course is one that we implement. Wait, no, sorry. This is app, and here this will be like course, body parser, the logger that we wrote. Do you guys remember that? Like to log all the requests, the endpoints and the methods. Let's just call it like logger. And then an example of a route middleware is the valid numbers. Valid nums. The other one that we saw was like is user registered to verify if the user was like in our array. Those are examples of those. So what do we remember about app level middleware? how is app level middleware different from route level middleware? Janesh? Somebody else? Louis?
App level affects the entirety of what you're programming, and then the route level is very granular. It only affects, I guess, the one file.
So you have the right idea, which is, yes, app level will sort of affect the entire app, but let's define what affect is. Like, somebody can do a little bit more. Like, what does this mean, like affect?
Like they'll use the middleware for all the routes.
Yes, exactly.
All the routes will
All routes, all methods. So app level middleware will handle all routes and all methods, right? And how do we use the app level middleware? Yes. App.use. App.use. In here, with what we're doing, what we're going to do is we're going to be using app.use for our subroutes. We don't quite want to accept all the routes and all the methods. Oh, actually, we want to accept all the methods, but not all the routes. What we're going to do is accept all the byte routes, for instance. So let's look at what that will appear. So for doing that, what I want to do is this products.js file, I want it to be a module, right? What do we know about modules? What are the two actions that we must not forget to do when we're dealing with modules, especially if we're creating one ourselves? Export and import, right? Or export and require, right? So here, this module we wrote ourselves, so we explicitly need to export it. If you forget to export it, you are going to have a surprise. Module.exports, and here, what I want to export is if you think about it, we imported, we created a router with express.router, and then after that, we added a route or an endpoint to be listened for, and a callback to handle that endpoint. So we modified the router, right? The router now is able to handle a GET request on /1, and then here I want to export the modified router, the router that is able to handle this request. So I'm exporting that, and what I'm going to do next is go on my app, here, import my router now with, let's do const products. These variables we oftentimes call like products router equal to require. This might be the first time that we are not. Now here, I want to require that module, the one that I wrote. If you're requiring a module that you wrote, you need to specify the path to that module. You cannot just say products. When you specify like this, Node is going to look into the built-in modules. If it doesn't find it there, it's going to look into the node underscore modules. And ours is not going to be found in any of those two locations, so we need to specify the path. The path is, so let's think about the path. We are here. we are here. Server.js is here, so we have a folder routes. And inside of that folder routes, we have our products.js. So we need to do current folder slash routes slash products.js.
Any questions? You put the product.js inside a new folder?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, we can see here routes. So inside of routes, I have products. You can skip the JS. You actually don't need the .js. In that case, maybe you will need to. Yeah. It's very rare to have two files that end in products.js something. Yeah. Like one will be the, yeah. Cool. So I imported my module here. Now, the key to remember here is that this is just middleware, like any other. And the only difference that I'm going to do here is app.use, and regularly I'll just put the middleware here, right? If this was coarse, it will be something like products.router. But I don't want this router to affect all the routes and all the methods. Actually, I do want to affect all the, I want this router or this middleware to affect all the methods, but not all the routes. What routes do I want to handle with this router? Products. So then you do the first argument slash products, comma, second argument, the actual router. So let's look at this. Or questions before we see how this will work. So we have two Douglas.
So in this, well, you're probably not going through this. So the product system, it's looking at slash products, then going to app.use slash products, firing products router, and products router is what connects to the outside file that has all the routing information.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Giselle? Okay. So yes, this is anything that comes to slash routers, slash products will be sort of redirected, not really redirected, or it will be piped to the products router, and this products router is the other file that we have. So let's look at this. The goal is to put these two inside of that file. We're gonna do that next. But let's look at this as an example first. So I'm gonna go to the browser here. Maybe not this one, but this one. So I'm gonna do products /1, because that is /1 is the route, is the sub route that is specified here. So if I go there, I get an error, or this site can't be reached. Why is that? What is the most likely scenario when you get this, Malik? Is my server running? That is a great question. Thank you. Let's try again. Refresh. This is subroute 1. Let's do like this is subroute 1 plus rec.url. So like this is subroute 1 at like that. Oh, actually, this removes the whole URL. So I'm going to console log, or not console log, send back. This is a subroute 1 at /product/1. Right? That is because I have here like rec.original URL. So that is our first subroute inside of products. So instead of, yes, sir, from the request object. The documentation has more information about it. Was everyone able to make a request? If not, just raise your hand and we're going to see if we can help. Okay, so let's move the rest now here. Let's modularize. I'm going to get these two. Product system, I'm going to cut and then paste here. I cut app.get /products and app.get /product/product ID. What changes do I need to make here? Peter?
You change app to router.
App to router. Great. Anything else? Joanne? Add next. What do you mean by add next? From this one, you mean like from this one to go to this one? Oh, I see. Yeah, here like the next. So actually, we don't need to add next to the parameters here, unless we need it. If we're not gonna use it, we could just leave it. Yeah. But I know that I'm not gonna use it, so I'm just gonna remove it. In fact, I'm not gonna even use it here. So yeah. So if you're not gonna use it, you don't need it. Yeah.
You can get rid of where it says products after .get.
Yes. Now we can get rid of products. In fact, if we leave it like this, what happens is that to get this message, I'm going to need to do /products/products, which we don't want. Let's just look at it. I'm going to save the server. /products/1, that still works. I'm going to do /products /products. This is a list of all products, right? So this is this is redundant. We don't want redundancy and repetition, right? So it turns out that when you have a router, then this endpoint becomes relative to the endpoint the router is listening on. That is to say that in here, and we put them side by side, all these routes, all these endpoints in the router will start from /products. That is, I no longer need this, and I no longer need this, because they're being routed to the products router. They're being piped, and now this is. We could assume that /products is already here, prefixed. So we have let's think about this in So we could think of this if we visualize it as an actual tree. We could have the main endpoint, or also known as the root endpoint, is just the slash. And then from here we have something for /products. Right? And now, before what we had was like /products, /products, /product ID. This was sort of like what we had before. Basically, everything in this visualization, everything will be like horizontal, right? And then we saw that we had that repetition that will repeat products a few times. Now, what the router allows to do is, instead of having this, we just here have sort of like another sort of fork where you just do /prod ID, right? And then we can get rid of this, which is what we did in our code. So we have like /users, /reviews, and the other one I don't remember. But we can assume then now that we have this being a subroute of products, and we don't need to say products here anymore, because we already said it here, right? And that is sort of this app.use part. And we have another one like for like /1. Yes, Cameron.
Is it possible for the server to somehow print old information?
To print old?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
So I change whatever I'm sending, but I'm still printing the old stuff.
Oh, I think, yeah, it is possible that it will be a badly done server. Yeah. I've seen Canvas do what you're describing sometimes. It will display all information, even though the information that is, well, that comes from different. So the answer is yes, and it can have multiple causes. One can be a badly designed server, or a caching.
So you mentioned before how the clear caching, or just like you said, 100%.
Yeah, then when you do like hard refresh. Say that again? Command Shift R. Yes. Lag? Yeah, like if the database is in Asia and my server is in the US, there's going to be some lag. Yeah. Cool. So then we just saw that we can get rid of that. Oftentimes we will put this in. We'll put it just a slash. So this just slash will account for just slash products. I'm going to do that in here. Oftentimes we do it like in the hierarchical order. Putting like the root at the top. So this one here is accounting for slash routes, slash products. This one is accounting for slash products slash one. And this one is accounting for slash products slash product ID or anything else, basically. Yes. What problem? We'll need to take a look at it. But are you running your server with NodeMon?
Yeah.
Do you try killing it and start it again?
Yeah.
Maybe you can take a look. So try the route slash products and you should get this. Try the route slash products slash one and you should get this. Try the route slash product slash ABC and you should see this. Sending specific product information. Raise your hand if you're not seeing that and then I can go back. Now, change everything else. Change everything else. Change slash users, orders, and reviews to follow this same model. So create 3 more files, one for inside of the routes, one for users, one for orders, and another one for reviews. And then modify your app or server.js to be using the router now, just like we did for app.use slash products. Basically convert your app from a monolith written in one file to a modularized one where every main route has its own router, its own file. Yeah. Oh,
Earlier it didn't work for me. See routes, not routes.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because then I have a folder called routes,
Okay.
and then you have.
I'm tired.
You have a file called products as inside of a folder called routes. Okay.
Did you have to make a folder?
Yes. I did not. So do you have any just have do it less and see what you have. I create a file called routes. Sorry, a folder called routes, and then put products inside of it. I just drag it or NV products, and then the destination, which is.
Oh, hey, how you doing, Jojo?
Good to see you.
Back in course class a little bit, just to get a refresh.
Yeah, so like here we have one level method. Here we have like slash products, slash product ID, slash photos.
Like this file wave.
Do you think when you like had like the folder come up here?
Oh, you need to open, so it's not showing up there because you didn't open a folder in code, in VS Code. So for that, you need to open a folder first. So you could open a folder with, like in the terminal, or here you can do code period to open the current folder. Now it's gonna show.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Did anybody borrow a charger, Mac charger, from 6.3? No?
Is there just another way of saying that?
No, actually, so this is, yes, sort of. This is another way of saying it, but we cannot use that way yet because there is a step. If we want to use import is like the new way. But we'll need to use something else that will basically convert those import to required to be able to use it in Node. Mhm.
send over here.
Mhm.
Because these don't have a send, like you see. There's no generic /review.
Wait, I don't understand.
You see products, there's like this,
Mm-hmm.
the original way.
Yeah.
It's not the original way.
That's the original one.
Oh, that is the original way. Okay. This has a send,
Okay.
but there's no like /reviews. But there's only /reviews.
I see.
So I could just like
Yeah, just do that. Yeah, that's fine.
I could delete this.
Yeah, or you just include it.
So if I delete this, it won't affect any of these.
No.
Interesting. Okay, got it. Oh, because like you told me earlier, it's because the app.use, right? Thanks. Thanks.
So your app should be looking something like this. Your server now should be looking something like this, right? /users. I was trying to find. /users/orders. And then orders /reviews. And this is basically what your server.js will look like. Exactly like this. Oh, I also need to do the routers for each one. So users router, orders router, reviews router. This is user, orders, reviews. And then I have to create those files. I'm going to close this one. Let's create them on the terminal. Touch cd routes. Touch user.js, orders.js, reviews.js. Now we have those. Unless we have now 4 modules in which we separated our routes. Now let's go one by one. So I'm going to open this here. Routes. Orders. So same thing. Const express core require express const router equal express that router capital R. Because I don't want to forget to export it, I'm going to do module.exports equal router, and then router.get. I forgot which routes we have here. Rec res. I think orders we had. Oh, here, they're already here. Orders we had only one, actually, so order or user ID. Let's do rec.send. Let's do this. Orders from, let's do this sort of a string interpolation here to make it a little bit more interesting. orders from rec.params.user ID. So I have this in the server. I have my users router. Oh, I call it user here. Let's do user. What this middleware that I have set up here are nested routes, or this will handle the nested routes. But at the core, they are just middleware, as we were discussing. So anything, and now let's see why they called this function use. Basically, they said for any request that arrives to /users, literally use the user router. That's why they call this function use. For any routes for any request of any method that arrives to /orders, use the order router.